16th Annual Fair and Affordable Housing Summit. My name is Wanda Allen Abraham, and I am the Director of the Human Relations, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department with the City of Winston-Salem. Each year, the City of Winston-Salem is very excited to bring you the Fair and Affordable Housing Summit. The summit presents a very unique opportunity for stakeholders in our immediate community, in the triad, and those across the state to come together to talk about trends and hot topics that are going on in relationship to housing discrimination, fair housing in general, and various affordable housing best practices and initiatives. So this year will be no exception. And of course, we are bringing this to you virtually. So that is a bit different because we're usually together and having a luncheon. But this year, we do hope that you will still get as much from this virtual platform as you would if we were together in person. So I would like to also thank and recognize that we have the Human Relations Commission behind this program each and every year through the New Horizons Fair Housing Committee. The New Horizons Fair Housing Committee plans the summit each and every year. And so we have members of the stakeholder committee who are present today. You will meet some of them as we progress through the program. And also we will be acknowledging and thanking them as the summit continues. We will also be joined by our annual Fair Housing Breaking Barriers awardees. And so we're real excited to present that to you later on in the summit as well. And finally, I would like to thank the staff who has worked so hard to put this together, and not only the Human Relations DEI department, but also in the city's marketing and communications department. We could not do any of this without their support and involvement. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you our very esteemed mayor, Mr. Alan Joines. And the Honorable Alan Joines joins us each and every year when we have our Fair and Affordable Housing Summit. And he has been a true champion of not only programs like this one through the Human Relations DEI department, but for all of our stakeholders across the community in general. So we're really excited as always to have Mayor Joines with us. So Mayor Joines.
Thank you, Ms. Abraham. Good afternoon, everyone. I certainly agree with the fact that we are very supportive of the efforts for affordable housing and safe housing in our community and fair housing in our community. I want to add my thanks to the Human Relations Commission and the staff for the work that you all do all year long to help us address issues such as that. Affordable housing is the top of our priorities within the city government. I just recently brought a recommendation to the city council, and they agreed. We set aside $30 million to work towards developing affordable housing and a goal of creating 750 new units per year for the next 10 years. It's a big job, but it's something that really needs to be done. We actually need to create about 14 to 15,000 new units over the next 8 years. So we've got a job ahead of us there. But in doing so, we've got to make sure that the housing is available. It's fairly offered, and there's not discrimination occurring there. And that's certainly what we're dealing with. So I thank all the individuals who have signed on today to participate. And every year I'm just so impressed with the broad array and spectrum of agencies across our community that get together and really interested in trying to move this forward. And to the panelists that are a part of this, thank you for your participation. So on behalf of the City of Winston-Salem, I thank you for being a part of this, and I hope it's a very productive discussion today. Thank you, Ms. Abraham.
And thank you, Mayor Joines. We appreciate the ongoing support. And next we have, we're going to hear actually from our Human Relations Commission chairperson, Mr. Robert Leake.
Good afternoon. My name is Pastor Robert D. Leake III, and I am the chairperson for the Human Relations Commission. Today, we celebrate our 16th annual Fair Housing Summit here in the city of Winston-Salem. Signed in law in 1968, the Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination in the sale, rental, and financing of housing based on race, color, religion, sex, and disability. The Act has two main purposes: prevent discrimination and reverse housing segregation. Therefore, today, the City of Winston-Salem and the Human Relations Commission, as well as the Fair Housing Horizon Committee, celebrates this year's Fair Housing Summit. I would like to thank our Director of the Human Relations, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Ms. Wanda Allen Abraham, the staff of the Human Relations, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Office, as well as my cohort, Vice Chair Melissa Thompson, and the Human Relations Commission. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy our Fair Housing Summit this year.
And thank you, Chair Leak. We appreciate your enthusiasm, dedication, and leadership to the Human Relations Commission each and every year. So thank you. And so now we are going to treat you to something that we hope you'll find very interesting, which is a highlights reel. And so this highlights reel will actually be a reflection of many successes that we have seen here in our local community from our community stakeholders, such as Piedmont Federal, Experiment and Self-Reliance, and others. And so we think that you'll enjoy hearing from these key stakeholders. Again, they comprise the New Horizons Fair Housing Committee. They help to plan today's summit, and they do that each and every year. And it's particularly great to show this reel because this is National Fair Housing Month. And so we would like to also acknowledge that we work very closely with our partners at the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, colloquially known as HUD, to put on these types of programs. And each and every one of the stakeholders probably has worked with HUD either directly or indirectly with a lot of the projects that you may be seeing on this very reel that we're about to show. So right now we will go ahead and move forward and share the 16-year reflection of successes in our local community.
I went to Habitat the first time and I was turned down. I checked my credit and everything, and I figured I had a lot of stuff on my credit. And a friend of mine introduced me to Sharon, gave me her phone number. And when I called Sharon, she was there willing to help me to get to where I need to go.
She stressed the importance of her becoming a homeowner, and I advised her that I can guide her through that process, and I would tell her exactly what she needs to do. So we reviewed her credit report and her budget, completed an affordability analysis as well, and I created an action plan of what she needed to do so she can qualify for a mortgage so she can become a homeowner.
She told me what I needed to pay off, and I'm like, okay. I said, okay, Sharon, I'll be back in a week. But I was back before a week because I was determined. And when I called Sharon, I said, Sharon, I said, okay, I don't pay this off. She said, for real? Well, I was like, yeah, I paid this off. And she said, okay. She said, now we need to pay this off. I said, okay, sit right there. I made a phone call. I paid that off. And she said, you don't pay everything already? I said, yeah, it didn't take but a week. I love my house. I love the location. It's quiet. I was paying $750 a month for rent. They made my mortgage to where I only pay $341 a month. So we're looking at a good $300 drop from what I was paying. They had made it very affordable for me to afford where I'm living and don't have to worry about my mortgage anymore.
The program started in 1995. But to date, we have helped close to 1,000 families.
Wow.
With down payment assistance.
You get any good feedback from the people? Do you ever, well, that's probably an unfair question, but I mean, do you ever get positive feedback from people you've helped? Or?
Yes. Some of the feedback, all of it is positive, but some of that feedback relates to the security and stability that the families have realized and also them understanding and becoming more knowledgeable about asset building, because homeownership is an avenue or an aspect of achieving assets. And we don't do this work alone. We've done this work over many years with partnerships through Center for Homeownership,
Right.
ESR, United Way, the Habitat for Humanity, the Housing Authority, the City of Winston-Salem.
Last month, my bill was $67. I wanted to cry. I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, I'm checking, and I'm like, are you serious?
It's a two-part program. You have to qualify based on your income, and the home has to be assessed. Those who, of course, are fully qualified and the homes are approved, it's great. The program is great, and they see wonderful results.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Cameron Berry from Piedmont Federal Savings Bank, and today I just wanted to highlight one of our successes over the past year. We recently began a mortgage called the First Time Home Buyers Dream Program, which allows us to accept down payment assistance funds from Forsyth County, shout out to Bianca Green, and the city of Winston-Salem. This program has a waived origination fee, no private mortgage insurance, a discounted interest rate, and the appraisal fee is refunded at closing. So I believe that this program will help out many people within our community in the near future. And thank you all for coming out today. And I look forward to sharing our successes with you all next year.
Okay. We hope that you enjoyed watching that highlights reel. We are very proud of our community stakeholders and partners. As you see, they do a lot of work, a lot of important work in our local community, and it has made a very real and tangible difference for many here in Winston-Salem and Forsyth County. So kudos to each and every one of you for all that you do. And we know that that doesn't comprise all of the work that is done and all of the accomplishments here in our community, but we just wanted to provide you with an example of several that have been very successful. So again, thank you so much to all of our stakeholders who offered information for the highlights reel. Thank you. So next on the agenda, we're going to move into the introduction of our panel of experts. And you all really should take full advantage of this group that we have today and make sure that you listen closely to the information that they share and feel free to ask questions. We do have questions that we will be checking anyway in the chat feature. So please make sure that you pose your questions there. And a couple of people from our committee will be checking that chat box to make sure that we're not missing any questions that can be posed to the panelists. So we're very fortunate today to have with us Mr. Kyle Haney. And Kyle is the director of Forsyth County Economic and Community Development. And so he's going to be our facilitator. We're really stoked to have him with us. And he will be posing questions to our 4 panelists. And the panelists include Jack Holtzman, Carol Davis, Ed Sharp, and Jerry Anderson. And I think Kyle may be doing brief introductions of the 4 panelists, at least with their job titles and their agencies. And then also we will be talking about the 4 topics that we will be touching on, including affirmatively furthering fair housing, housing affordability, eviction diversion, and neighborhood stabilization. So I don't want to take too much of Kyle's thunder here, but Kyle, I'm going to go ahead and turn everything over to you because, of course, the panel discussion comprises the majority of today's summit. And then just so the audience knows, after the panel discussion has concluded, we will be presenting our Fair Housing Breaking Barriers Award, and then we will wrap up. And we do anticipate wrapping up no later than 2 o'clock. So Kyle, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wanda. And I am also stoked to be asked to able to do this. You know, all the work that you all put into putting on this wonderful summit and watching that video, it's just so inspiring about all the passionate people in this community who are working to provide fair and affordable housing. So thank you so much for allowing me to be here. So I'm going to jump in here and start our panel here with the first panelist, who is Jack Holtzman, who is the Director of Legal Aid of North Carolina, their Fair Housing Project. And he's going to be talking about affirmatively furthering fair housing. So Jack, if you don't mind, turn on your camera and your microphone. Great. Jack, you know, that I gave a brief introduction. Is there anything else you want to tell us about yourself and the work that you do before we get into
No, the Fair Housing Project is a project of Legal Aid of North Carolina. We're a statewide project based in Durham, and I'm just here to talk a little bit about fair housing and affirmatively furthering fair housing. And so if you give me maybe about 10 minutes, I'll just lay that at you.
Awesome. Okay. Well, you know, that's a great segue into our first question here. So what does affirmatively furthering fair housing mean?
So affirmatively furthering fair housing is a requirement, a statutory requirement by federal law that says that recipients of federal funding specifically have to do more than just not discriminate, but they have to affirmatively further fair housing. And so for cities like Winston-Salem, for counties like Forsyth, that I'm assuming receive either CDBG monies or home or ESG monies, this is an affirmative duty that the city and the county have to further fair housing in all of their work.
Great. Thank you so much, Jack, for explaining that. So what are affirmatively furthering fair housing best practices statewide and nationwide?
Well, sure. So first, let me just say that the city of Winston-Salem doesn't come to this with a blank slate. There is an unfortunate history of racial segregation and housing discrimination that has existed in Winston-Salem, just like across the state of North Carolina and across the United States. And so in trying to address those historic patterns of segregation, there are a variety of different programs and things that other cities, other counties have done. And in fact, that the city itself in its 2017 assessment of fair housing set as goals to address fair housing and to have a fairer market. Things like down payment assistance programs, things like talking about where public or where publicly funded housing is going to be placed. You rather than cluster it in areas where there are already public housing. You want to ensure that new affordable housing is going to be built in communities of opportunity, areas where there are jobs, where there are public transportation and other amenities. And same thing in terms of the Section 8 voucher program that the city and the county's public housing authorities manage. You want to make sure that those housing choice vouchers are able to be used throughout the city and not just in historically, racially or ethnically concentrated areas. So there are a variety of things that the city can do and many that it already is in the process of doing that can address fair housing.
Jack, thank you so much. Those are really great examples. And I know listening to the city's council summit, I guess it was about a month ago, a lot of those came up and it's definitely a part of the strategy for the city and the county and the housing authority. So next question, and before I get into that, just want to remind people who are viewing this, if you want to ask questions or type those into the question and answer section, I can relay those to Jack after we finish the questions that we have prepared. So Jack, what are the contextual legalities of affirmatively furthering fair housing, past and present, and what are some common barriers?
So in terms of the context, like I said, this is a federal law that is part and parcel of all the different fair housing requirements that recipients of fair housing like the city of Winston-Salem and like Forsyth County have to go through. And so in terms of context, the problem has been, and it's not just a Winston-Salem or Forsyth County problem, it's really a national problem, that as a result of active conduct, both by private real estate agents, appraisers, companies, lenders, and local governments historically, there's been racial segregation throughout, Winston-Salem, throughout the county, and throughout North Carolina. And so, how do you address that? How do you foster racial and ethnic integration? How do you create opportunity in all areas of the city? And so fair housing and making sure that you implement all of the different housing programs in a manner to further fair housing has to be, at the forefront in order not to perpetuate that historic segregation.
So it really is about intentionality and when you're planning housing and putting your public dollars into that.
Yes, so you can't just leave it up to the market. There needs to be, because this problem was created by government conduct in the past, it needs to be alleviated by both a public and private partnership to address.
Great. Well, I just want to, at this point, I want to kind of open it up and see if we have any questions from watchers for the summit. For Mr. Holtzman. I know, Mr. Holtzman, I know you have another engagement to talk about fair and affordable housing as well. So, we really appreciate your time and your expertise and your and sharing your knowledge with us.
It's no problem. Unless there's a specific question, I just want to note that there's a blueprint that the city of Winston-Salem and the county have already created in terms of addressing fair housing, specific fair housing goals in that 2017 assessment of fair housing. Dealing with new construction, affordable housing construction in greater opportunity areas, improving mobility for low and moderate income residents, expanding home ownership opportunities, down payment assistance programs. A lot of these things are things that the city is already committed to, but as with everything, increasing that effort and putting more money into that effort is needed.
Jack, thank you for that. And we have a copy of that report in our office. It's extensive, so I would encourage everybody to go online and look through it. But it was really well thought out and well done. So I do think we got a question here from Kelly Mitter. Hey, Kelly, with Habitat. If HUD is trying to not concentrate poverty further, how do we address the urban communities that have been disinvested in for all this time?
Sure. So it's both trying to create greater mobility so folks can live where they want to live, and if they live in a low opportunity area, to move if they want to, and making that available in terms of down payment assistance, first time home buyer assistance. But in addition to that, addressing those areas, specifically communities of color that have historically been deprived the same amenities as white communities. And so there needs to be some intentional conduct by the city, by the county, and by our state that address that. So, for example, making sure that there's public transportation available, that there are bus stops, that there's sidewalks, that there are bike lanes, that there are no food deserts in those communities. So there does need to be both an affirmative providing of amenities and targeting of amenities in low opportunity areas and communities of color specifically, as well as making sure that everybody in the city is able to live wherever they want, regardless of race or ethnicity.
Thank you, Jack. That's a great answer. I think we have a couple more questions here. So let's see. Florence Adams asked if we could put the Fair and Affordable Housing Study in the chat. So I don't know if anyone has the ability to do that, but we'll see what we can do there. If not, we'll find a way to communicate that out. Is the city working on providing more places to live? Right now, there are so many people looking for homes to live instead of cars, shelters, or hotels. Any input in a short time solution?
Well, obviously there's a much greater need for safe and affordable housing and accessible housing than there are government funds available. The city is doing a good job in identifying affordable housing as a specific need and putting money into that. Certainly, it could do more, but I think it's doing a great job in targeting that and trying to address the problem. It would be good if the state itself recognized that as one of the goals and assisted municipalities like the city in putting in more monies into affordable housing. That is an issue. And so, but there is, there are what are called low-income housing tax credits. And so to the extent that the city and the county can work with affordable housing developers, remove any barriers to the building of affordable housing, and work closely with those affordable housing developers to promote more affordable housing, that is something that will help increase the available stock. But there's not going to be enough. Until there is, until there's maybe additional tax credits, whether at the national or state level, it's just that there's a want of money.
Thank you. Another question we have here. So, how can a small investor help out? Someone who has cash to build or buy one or two small houses, but just having difficulty finding the properties and quite frankly, competing with some of these, what we've seen in the last couple of years, investor firms who are really buying property sight unseen, paying cash. How can an individual really help out with this process?
That is a great question to which I don't really have an answer. I hope that maybe one of my other panelists might be able to answer that question. I apologize.
No, absolutely, yeah. All right, well, looking through here. I will mention, and Wanda mentioned I was going to bring this up. The city, and I encourage you by its own line. I think it was back in February. It had a affordable housing summit, and brought in some additional experts to talk about affordable housing solutions and a plan. And they approved $30 million for affordable housing investments that they're going to be rolling out with projects over the coming years. So certainly there are efforts underway, and the county is partnering with them. I know Habitat and many other of our partners are involved in that as well.
I think that is excellent, and I think that the city needs to be commended for doing that.
Well, Jack, so I want to go ahead and just say thank you so much for being here and providing your knowledge to us. You are an amazing resource, and we really, really appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you very much.
Wonderful. All right. So with that, I'm going to move on to our next panelist here today, who's going to really be speaking on affordable housing questions and housing affordability. That is Carol Davis, the Executive Director of the Enterprise Center with SG Atkins at CDC, who is going to be talking a little bit about the Hardesty Lane project. We saw that in the slideshow earlier. And so, Carol, I'm not sure if you can get your camera and microphone on.
Hi, Kyle.
Have this conversation. And Carol, is there anything, like I said, brief introduction here. Is there anything you want to share about yourself or your organization before we get into these questions?
Well, Kyle, I actually have a few slides. Would it be okay if I put my slides on while we talk?
You know what? I am not the technical expert here, but I'll ask to see if that's possible.
We think that a few slides are fine, and I'm not the technical expert either. I'm just going ahead and being the good guy saying sure. But Jamie, if there's a way, then yes. Okay. Carol, looks like you're handling it.
I'm working on it here. Let me see. From the beginning. Have I handled it?
I can see it. Looks great.
Okay. So thank you for having me. And I'll just say I've been the director of Atkins CDC for a long time. I don't think I have to say how long, but it's been a while. And I've been excited to participate in these fair housing summits over the years, and have had the pleasure of working with so many of the partners in this ecosystem that help home buyers, first-time home buyers specifically, to purchase their first home and make home ownership a reality for so many people. And some of them have already been highlighted, but I think I'm definitely going to give them a shout out while I show these slides. But Atkins CDC is a nonprofit started by Winston-Salem State, and our mission is to be a catalyst for economic development in the neighborhoods near the campus. And today we're talking about Hardesty Lane. And so we have worked very closely with the city and many stakeholders as we've worked on Hardesty Lane. And part of that process included the East End Master Plan that some of you may be familiar with, when we embarked on a planning process over a year with the city councilman for the ward at the time, Derwin Montgomery, and with the community. We had many community meetings. And part of what came out of that process was a recommendation that we increase the housing density in this particular area so that we could accommodate more housing units at a mix of price points for residents of Winston-Salem. And as you see here, just in kind of a summary, This plan mentions development of 150 single-family units and up to 1,100 multifamily residential units, as well as commercial space in this area. And so what we had the opportunity to do after the 2008 market crash was work with the city to purchase some lots and some vacant houses in this area. So there, at the time, there were vacant houses that were upside down. The owners were upside down in that they had been utilizing them as rental properties, but they owed more on them than they were worth at the time. And the city helped us by providing us with resources to buy about 12 lots, 12 houses and lots in this area. So some of the old houses were demoed, and then some of the vacant lots had never had homes on them before. And we were able to build on those just recently. So we held these lots for a long time, pretty much while we did other things and while we got into a position where we could start construction. But this is an example of one of the homes that we've now been able to build and sell just recently. When we first started on Hardesty Lane, the first house we sold was about $110,000. And this was 4 years ago. Now, the most recent house we sold was $164,900. And this is a result of the craziness that we've seen in the home ownership market all over the country, but especially, you know, it is applying to our neighborhoods as well. And so there's been an increase, as you know, in the cost of labor and materials, and just a real pressure on these prices moving up. So this 1,231 square foot home sold in January for almost $165,000, and it cost us about $155,000 to build it. So we're keeping our prices down as much as we can as we go forward, and putting a quality product on the market for first-time home buyers. I know that you're going to ask me, who are our buyers? Who are we selling to? And most of our buyers have been mothers, have been women with children. You know, they've been social workers, teachers, healthcare workers, administrative assistants, you know, women who have been renting for a long time and got themselves in a place where they could purchase. And of course, we send all of our buyers to the Center for Home Ownership. They work with Sharon, they work with the county, with Bianca, they work with folks at the city, they work with all the folks in our ecosystem. Hilda at ESR with the IDA program. And we've had 32 home buyers over the years. And what I've just scrolled through are some of the houses that we've recently built. And these two are under construction. This Fitzgerald home is under construction, as well as Bailey. And one example of how costs have gone up, this Bailey house, for example, is on a lot that never had a house on it. So we purchased the lot for $5,000, but putting the water sewer connection in was $15,000. And that's a big increase from what it used to cost to do that. And then as we go on, you can see some of the team members right here smiling on a day when we had a ribbon to cut and our two home buyers were there in the middle. But our builder, Bill Cruz, we've been building with him for over 10 years. Builds a nice, solid, good quality product. Virginia Hardesty, who's shown here, is the chair of our board now. And this street is named after her husband and herself as longtime business owners on Martin Luther King. And what we are going to do here in the short future, like by the end of this month, we're going to have solar panels on 4 of these houses on Hardesty Lane. So because of a partnership we have with an HBCU coalition and a foundation in New York State, we are working with Southern Energy to install solar panels on the last 4 homes that we sold on this street. And we anticipate that it's going to add value to their homes, that it's going to help them save money by decreasing their energy costs. And we're just very excited for the opportunity to provide that benefit to our new homeowners. So I'll pause here, Kyle, and see if you have some questions for me.
That is great. And actually, yeah, you definitely covered a couple of those questions, but, you know, I just want to say how important this issue is. You know, in our partnership with you and the city and Center for Homeownership, ESR, and all the partners in working in the affordable, the first-time homebuyers program, I think we've been saying so much recently. For the last 30 years while we've been doing this program, we've been looking for people to come buy those homes. We had the houses, and we are in a completely different situation now where we have a ton of people who are ready, who are excited about buying, and it's just the housing stock has just not been there, and the prices have gone so far up. So these types of programs, working with CDCs like yours, Carol, to help provide affordable homeownership housing really is so important to this ecosystem. You know, one thing I'd love to ask is just, I know you've shared a little bit about some success stories and challenges, but you know, if you could just talk a little bit more about any sort of challenges that you've or what main challenges you've had in these programs.
Well, you know, in terms of trying to keep our costs low so that we can pass on good prices to our buyers, the challenge has always been with infill, you know, how to utilize these lots, or how to buy old properties that are not rehabable and tear them down and not pass those costs on to the new buyers. And because of our partnership with the city, you know, as I mentioned, in this particular case, we were able to use some grant funds from the city to purchase lots. And so there's money in the dirt, as I say, because some of these locations or properties here had houses that we purchased for maybe like $15,000, and then we tore them down for about, you know, $7,000. And so there's $22,000 in the dirt right before we even get started. But because of our partnership, we didn't have to pass that cost on to the buyers. I say also that the challenge that we're seeing in this particular area is, you know, on Saturday nights, you know, there's some drag racing going on Martin Luther King and on Laura Wall Boulevard. And, you know, I think some of we're trying to develop our partnership with, you know, with law enforcement to try to keep traffic slow in that area, but it seems that it's become a recreation area. And I know that some of our homeowners are not real happy about that. I know that it seems like some of these drag racers should have the chance to go to Bowman Gray and drive around the track a few times instead of racing up and down MLK on their ATMs and, you know, or even on Laura Wall and making a whole lot of noise. But you know, we've had buyers who have seen our vision for the neighborhood and they invest in that vision. And we're happy that, you know, they're being able to see some appreciation in their home values right now. But this is a community that has a lot of opportunity, and we're excited for the folks who have worked with us to make these new homes possible.
Carol, I really want to highlight that you said vision. You're the vision for this community, and it really highlights the community development piece of this, because I know, you know, this isn't you building the housing and stepping away. you're involved in this community, you're supporting them when there are issues, like you talked about as far as the drag racing. You're there to try to advocate for them and create that change. So that's just amazing work. Is there anything you want to share? Anything else you want to share? Just kind of about the needs for affordable home ownership and the work that you all are doing, or what's coming next? What's the next need?
Right. So I would say that, our relationship with funders has gotten a lot better over the years. We've had recently the 4 houses that we got construction loans from Pinnacle Bank. And now we have a construction loan from Piedmont Federal. And I think, each time we build a house, we sell it, and then we have to reapply for the construction loan. What might make this easier is if we could have a revolving loan fund for construction so that we don't have to, close it out and go back and reapply each time. But we're thankful for the partnerships that they've allowed us to pretty much do 2 spec houses at a time. And we want to just continue to purchase property as we can and continue building. And, there's so much need and there's so many buyers right now that we just want to do as much as we can, as fast as we can.
I know that we've got 70 people on our list who are qualified. So when you're getting the next one ready, I know Bianca's got them lined up for you. So
yes.
I just want to see if there are any other questions from people who are watching for Carol that we can do. I know. So it looks like Corey Berry asked about whether the fair market rate is going to increase since rent has increased. And I know HUD puts that out every year. So I'm not sure, and I don't know if anybody on here has some insight into that. We might be able to address that with a.
Sorry, did you say rent?
Yeah, so they were talking about the fair market rate for rent with HUD that gets released every year. And I'm just not. I don't have that answer, but maybe somebody on here does.
Right.
So someone asked, "What organization are you from again?" And so, Carol, I'll let you do that one.
Sure. Well, Winston-Salem State University gives me the extreme pleasure and opportunity to do this work. They started this 501c3 nonprofit, and we're named after the founder of Winston-Salem State University, Simon Green Atkins. So we are a Simon Green Atkins Community Development Corporation.
And I'll give a plug for Carol and all the great work she does. We talked a little bit about the IDA program, which hopefully everybody's familiar with that, but it's a wonderful partnership between a lot of the organizations sponsored here, the city, the county, Experiment Self-Reliance, Center for Homeownership, Financial Pathways, Habitat, a ton of players in that. And Carol has worked with them for some of her houses, but now is going to be working with our small business portion of that program too. So we're really excited about that partnership as well. So Carol, it looks like we don't have any other questions right now. So I just want to say thank you so much for all the work that you've done and for sharing all the work you're doing right now. And we really appreciate you being on here and speaking with us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Great. So the next panelist that we're going to bring on here is going to talk about the eviction diversion. So I'm very excited to have Ed Sharp with Legal Aid of North Carolina join us to talk about eviction diversion. Ed, if you can turn on your camera and your microphone, and if there's anything else you want to share about yourself or your organization.
I'm here. I am an attorney with Legal Aid of North Carolina. We are a private nonprofit law firm. And one of the things we do a bunch of different things, but one of the things we do is represent tenants in eviction actions. And that is primarily what I'm going to be talking about today. But the Eviction Diversion Network is something unique to Winston-Salem, and it, I think, was created at least partly in connection with the crisis created by the pandemic, but also work on it began well before that. And the idea is to provide stability to families, because it's well known that if a family has a housing opportunity in a neighborhood of opportunity and stability for their family, it benefits the children and in terms of their schooling and everything else, employment, everything is connected with that. So there are a lot of different stakeholders, and I'm not going to mention all of them, but because there are too many. But there's a lot. The first, of course, is the city of Winston-Salem itself. And Wanda Allen Abraha is, the mainstay of the program. But she hosts bi-weekly meetings in which a lot of the stakeholders get together and basically talk about what is going on in, what is going on in the landlord-tenant world in Winston-Salem. And she brings in a lot of different people who share what they know. In addition to that, her department also does fair housing investigations. Adolfo Briseño, I believe, is the main fair housing investigator. They also do, more specifically to the Eviction Diversion Network, landlord-tenant mediation. I believe Adolfo is also in charge of that. He apparently has a lot of hats. Recently, and by recently I mean in the last, year or so, one of the key parts of the Eviction Diversion Network has been ERAP, Emergency Rental Assistance Program. And, we get biweekly reports on that. Winston-Salem is one of the few jurisdictions that I'm aware of that still has any money, or at least hope of getting some rental assistance money. And that has been absolutely crucial to keeping people in their homes. With the incredible economic disruption caused by the pandemic, this emergency rental assistance has kept people housed, and has kept, in addition to that, it's kept landlords solvent such that they could continue to offer housing, fair and affordable housing to tenants. Other crucial stakeholders in this, the clerk of Superior Court of Forsyth County almost always has a representative on these calls who have been talking about the sheer numbers of eviction and, are they going up or down, and what the trends are in that. The sheriff of Forsyth County often has a representative, because in an eviction, I assume most of you know this, but in case you don't, in an eviction, the sheriff plays a crucial role. What we like to say is nobody can put out a tenant except for the sheriff. And that's because the sheriff is the one who serves or executes the writ of possession that is issued by the clerk. So they have unique knowledge related to their role in the eviction process. Wake Forest University School of Law has been very supportive of this program. I'm not sure if Winston-Salem State has been an official stakeholder, but certainly some of their professors have been involved in this, including some of the members of Housing Justice Now, which is a loose association of housing activists who have just helped out on the ground level, helping organize tenants, helping inform tenants, educate tenants, and helping them navigate all the various different things that need to be navigated in order to maintain your tenancy. Financial Pathways of the Piedmont, I believe we've already Heard from them at least briefly. They're involved in this. I don't want to forget landlords. The biggest landlord that I know of in Winston-Salem is the Housing Authority of the City of Winston-Salem, also known as HAWS. They are absolutely essential in understanding the state of fair and affordable housing in Winston-Salem, because not only are they one of the biggest landlords in terms of public housing, which they supply to low-income people and also to elderly and disabled, but also because HAWS supplies thousands of housing choice vouchers, usually called Section 8 vouchers, tenant-based Section 8 vouchers, which allow tenants to take that voucher and then go rent from private landlords. And this is a topic that I'm not sure if anybody else is going to address, but it's, one of the things I'm supposed to talk about is trends. And one of the trends that we're seeing is a crisis in the area of housing choice vouchers, whereby people are getting vouchers and as my understanding is that the voucher payment standards have been increasing because rents have been increasing, but people have been getting vouchers and then not being able to find a place to live. And recently, this crisis came to a head at one of the largest private complexes here in Winston-Salem, Ladera Crest, who made the decision to stop accepting housing choice vouchers, which would have been, I don't want to overstate it, but in my opinion, it would have been catastrophic had this decision, stayed in place. But the management of Ladera Crest, Landura Management, and the Housing Authority of the City of Winston-Salem got together and talked about it. Lee Staten, the Deputy Executive Director, and Kevin Cheshire, the Executive Director, were both involved in these negotiations, and Ladera Crest agreed to continue to accept housing choice vouchers for their residents. There was a meeting that was held at Ladera Crest called by Councilwoman Barbara Burke. But this is a giant issue, and it's one that I'm pleased to say that the Housing Authority of the City of Winston-Salem is aware of and is addressing. But I don't know that they're going to be able to do it alone, frankly. And it's an issue that everybody who's interested in housing needs to know about, that we need more landlords to agree to accept Section 8 vouchers. It would be nice if we made that a fair housing issue, but Congress, I believe, would have to act as far as that goes. Other landlords, I know I'm going to get all of this wrong, so I apologize in advance, but there are a number of landlord groups who are also involved in this, which is crucial, of course, because landlords are the ones who are providing fair and affordable housing, and we need them to do that. But the Piedmont Triad Apartment Association, I believe, is one of the entities that is participating in this effort. As one of my colleagues likes to say, without landlords, we would have two groups of people, homeowners and homeless people. So the landlord participation in the Eviction Diversion Network has been absolutely essential. And then finally, legal aid. My employer has been part of the Eviction Diversion Network, and our main contribution is legal representation. We are lawyers who provide representation to low-income people in civil matters, and we help people, tenants, defend evictions and thereby stay in their homes. And frankly, we are experts at it. The city of Winston-Salem has recently decided to expand the access of tenants to legal representation in their right to counsel program. I have actually had very little to do with that particular program, but the basic idea is that tenants who need representation would be able to get representation and try to defend the eviction. So we are going to be, if we have not already, hiring at least one other attorney to represent tenants in the city of Winston-Salem to, help them stay where they are. Trends. Well, of course, the main trend during the pandemic has been that people have been evicted. Most evictions are for non-payment, but definitely not all. But the number of non-payment evictions has just been very high. And the name of the game recently has been trying to match up landlords and tenants with rental assistance to try to get the rent paid so that the landlord can remain solvent, the tenant can remain in the home, and so that has been a major trend. But with most rental assistance drying up, I think that we're going to start seeing more and more evictions for reasons not related to non-payment. The housing authority, most housing authorities, but Hawes has been more reluctant to engage in evictions of all kinds, but in particular, a sort of low-level lease violations, and that's been quite welcome. But eventually, that's going to come to an end. But anyway, the time for rental assistance, I think, is right now, but it's probably going to be phased out. And then we're going to see, I think, a bigger mix of evictions.
And I want to say, you've really given a good insight to what eviction diversion is, and really described how much of it is partnerships and communication between entities, making sure that people understand and know about the resources. And then I think you've given a really good example of a large scale eviction diversion success story with the intervention with the apartment complex. How are you going about communicating your services and these opportunities, and how is the city and partners going about to citizens who might need it? What are some of the ways that we're making sure everyone's aware of the resources that are there for eviction diversion?
Events like this. I'm not sure I'm the best person to answer that question, but legal aid itself is prohibited from advertising. So it's all, in our case, it's all word of mouth. I do know that the city of Winston-Salem has made efforts in terms of community education, and we benefit from that. But I'm not sure if there are inserts. At one point, I think there were inserts in every eviction that was filed. I don't know if that remains true today, but I think for a while they were just putting a notice in every eviction that was filed, which is a good way to get the word out.
That's great. Well, and I think that's a good comment about events like this. So those people who are watching, having that education about these resources that are available and being able to refer people is awesome. I know you kind of talked a little bit about we're moving towards some of the end of the pandemic relief, and what can local governments, what can groups of partnerships like this do to really continue some of the successes we've seen over the last couple of years with providing eviction diversion?
The most important thing I would say, and I don't want to I don't want to be Chicken Little and say the sky is falling, but let me tell you, the sky is falling. We as a community need to invest like instantaneously in supply. The most important thing that people interested in fair and affordable housing can do is increase the supply, because for a number of different reasons, construction of new housing units was slowed or stopped during the Great Recession, and then during the pandemic, of course, everybody stopped working. Anyway, for whatever reason, there has been a really big problem with building needed new units, and as a result, the supply of affordable housing is drastically low. And this is a, like it or not, this is a capitalist country, and the basic idea is that if your landlord is not treating you right, take your money elsewhere. But if there's nowhere else to take your money, then that completely changes the calculus. If we had a greater supply of fair and affordable housing, then that is the single most important thing to leveling the playing field between tenants and landlords, and opening up access to housing, encouraging housing stability, allowing people to build lives in neighborhoods of opportunity. We need more supply. So I mean, that's perhaps a simplistic answer, and I apologize for that, but if I have to hit only one point, that's it.
I think getting to the root is what you have to do. So I really appreciate that. We did have a couple questions that came in. Do you support those with unfortunate legal status and are evicted by a landlord? And
so I don't understand the question.
I think if I'm understanding this correctly, I think someone has come here and doesn't have legal status. Would legal aid be able to support them in an eviction case?
Legal aid is a private nonprofit. However, we receive money from the federal government, from Legal Services Corporation, which is funded by Congress, which means Congress gets to tell us what to do. And Congress has told us that we are not allowed to represent low-income people who either have no immigration status or do not fit in one. So, for instance, citizens, of course, lawful permanent residents, certain other people like refugees, and certain other people who have lawful status. But if we're simply talking about somebody who has no legal status at all, we cannot represent them. But in some cases, there are workarounds. For instance, if they are victims of domestic violence, we may be able to work around in that way. If their children have citizenship status, that means we might be able to represent their children who are members of their household. But so that's a really long way of saying no.
Okay. Well, Ed, I really appreciate you coming on here and talking about eviction diversion and all the efforts that you, Legal Aid, and all the partners in Eviction Diversion Network are doing in this community. So thank you so much for being a part.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. And so now we're going to get to our fourth and final panelist here, who's going to talk about neighborhood stabilization. And I am really excited to introduce Jerry Anderson with the Do School. Jerry, if you can take your video on and turn your audio on, and if you want to share a little bit about yourself and your organization.
Well, thank you so much, Kyle, for the opportunity to come and share a little bit about the Do School. The Do School was launched in November of 21, and we wanted to impact on a couple of things. In our community, there is an abundance of men and women who are unemployable, often because of the wreckage of their past. And we wanted to find a way that we could create upward mobility by bringing some of these people into the workforce. I spoke with some people, community stakeholders from various parts of the city, and we determined that the best industry, the easiest industry to penetrate in terms of bringing hard to employ people on board was the construction industry. And we went to one of the oldest general contracting companies in North Carolina, Frank L. Bloom, and I spoke with their chief financial officer, Bill Ball, about this recursion that we were attempting to establish. And with just great positive feedback, he said, Jerry, we think this is a really great idea to take people who are hard to employ and train them in the construction trades. And how best to do that would be to purchase a house that needed a lot of repairs so that we could get every renovation experience available for our cohort. And then it was a matter of establishing where we would get our cohort from, how would we keep them on board. And we know that starting pay should be a livable wage. And so we included in our package $15 per hour for our cohort. And of course, we had to go out into the community to get funding for that. And so I enrolled one of my board members, who is Jim Woolston with CollegeNet out in Portland, Oregon. I met him, and Craig Richardson would know him, and Alvin, for his work with CollegeNet. And again, he thought it was a great idea and was willing to support it with what he calls green power. The recursion is pretty simple, actually. We went into the community and we purchased a house. The house that we purchased was the worst kept house in the community. And we knew that we would be able to get a really good training experience by getting this house. But not only would we get a great training experience, but it would have the effect of increasing the aesthetic value of the community to take a house that's in really terrible repair and bring it up to a standard that people would enjoy living in. It also served as a live learning lab, where our cohort, and we have 4 of them, would be able to go in and see the worst house. And then with the help of contractors, to come and to understand how we could rehab that house and make it as new. I have to thank Kelly Mitter and Habitat for Humanity. We have been and helped out quite a bit in their new home construction, which is a different animal than rehab. But we were fortunate in that we were able to see the process from beginning to end of how that goes, and then bring our cohort into a learning lab for a rehab to see the great difference in what that looks like. And so we used the construction trades as a learning lab. And then the third part of that recursion is to make that home available to first-time homeowners. And so we went out and recruited real estate agents and brokers to be a part of our board. So that once we had completed the house, we would be able to sell that house to a person and duplicate the process. I want to tell you that one of the things that we realized early on was that funds were limited. Everyone goes to the same resources to get funds to do these things. And so we decided to mine other collaborative currencies. And so we went to Lowe's and to Smith Phillips and some of the other suppliers in the community to say, this is what we like to do. And we believe that everybody in our city benefits from being able to first hire people who are hard to employ and train them in construction. And secondly, to impact on the housing scarcity in underserved communities. And by golly, we were able to do that. We've had tremendous support from, as I mentioned, Habitat and Winston-Salem Foundation and Black Philanthropy Initiative. And I'm not going to name all of the places that we have gone in order to get the kind of support that we need. We have graduated our first cohort a couple of weeks ago. And when we think about housing stock, we know that new construction will do a lot of things. But we also know that in our underserved communities, there is an abundance of housing that can be rehabbed. And so we chose that lane. I'm really honored and proud to be a part of this discussion from people that are so competent as a Carl Davis, who has been a part of this process for a long time, has good information that can be shared. And so we are a pilot program. We're still doing data collection to find out what it is that we need to do to make this a sustainable venture. And so, again, I'm just really happy to be a part of this and to share with the community an idea who we believe's time has come.
Jerry, I got to say, I'm looking at the chat right now and I'm seeing a lot of really excited people about this program. And I'm not in the chat, but I am one of those people. I think this is, at the heart of community development, of housing. You're talking about workforce development, you're talking about home ownership, and you're talking about, helping to repurpose and do neighborhood stabilization and reinvestment. So very, very cool. What are some of the partnerships? You talked about some of the partnerships you had. Could you share a little bit about the statistics? How many houses, how many people have come through the program, and if they, found placement with other organizations afterwards? And then a little bit about kind of what's next for you all, and what maybe some of the barriers and challenges, and how people can help.
Well, as I mentioned, this is a pilot program. We launched this program in November of 2021. And so we are less than 1 year old. We started with 3 men and 1 woman in the program, and we have a small property. It's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. And so obviously you can't have 10 people learning how to work in that one space. And so we chose the number 4 to begin this pilot program so that we would have ample space for people to work in. And we have not been in business for a year. We don't have any. We have another cohort that is in training right now. And we expect to complete this leg in late July, when the house will be completed and we will make it available for a first-time homeowner. I believe that as time goes on, we will learn how to duplicate this effort. Actually, we purchased a house and paid for it through donor contributions. And I could name a few of them. Kevin Miller with the Ezra Trust Foundation, who's a friend of mine. Barry Siegel, who is the founder of the Siegel Family Fund, is a friend of mine and contribute a substantial amount of money. But we have really just mined different currencies. The dollar is a currency that we are all familiar with, but I've gone to Sunbelt Rental and asked them for generators. I've gotten a $5,000 gift card from Lowe's. And I've had Smith Phillips come in and weigh in with several $1,000s worth of building materials. And so we know that there are currencies to be mined, social currencies to be mined, because everybody benefits when we employ people from around the city. With Forsyth County, and everybody knows the story of how Forsyth County ranks nationally in terms of economic mobility. And so it just behooves all of us to be able to find a way to participate in this recursion. And thank God we've been able to do that.
It's awesome. I'm looking forward to the county and the city partnering with you. I know there's going to be lots of opportunities. So we're running short on time here, but the number one question I'm getting right now is how can people connect with you and support your program either as a real estate agent or just in any way they can? Do you have a website somewhere that they can go and maybe we can share your information out there?
Well, I appreciate that a lot, Kyle, given the opportunity to share our website, which is www.thedo-school.org. And my phone number, which is pretty active, is 336-577-7050. I would invite anyone to go to our website to take a look at not only the property that we're rehabbing right now, but to be able to understand what this really is all about. And I invite others to participate in this recursion. This is a pilot, and we're absolutely wanting to engage and involve as many people in our community as we can. And toward that end, Kyle, there is a serious need for another summit. And that other summit would be a summit of nonprofit executive directors and founders so that we can begin to use all of the resources that are not necessarily related to construction. But one of the things in our data collection that we have discovered is that it's more than a trade that this particular population needs. There's soft skills, conflict resolution, attendance, proper dress and communication skills. All of those things are very necessary. And while the Do School is not equipped to handle all of those challenges, we know that there is a nonprofit right here in our community that can really speak to any and every need that Do School would have in terms of fulfilling some of the needs that our cohort would have. And so we're super excited to invite any and all stakeholders into this recursion. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. I'm excited. I'm so glad you said that. And I think, partnerships is what it's about. And so, I'm excited about everybody on here finding a way to partner and work with you. I did get one question here, and it looks like it's for me. Someone talked about grant funds that are out there to assist with neighborhood revitalization and fixing up homes in East Winston. I can talk a little bit about what I know, and Jerry, if you know of anything or if anybody else wants to jump in, but certainly the city and county do receive federal funds, and part of that can go to home rehabilitation. Generally that's homeowner occupied rehabilitation. Contacting the city's community development staff or the county, our community and economic development team, we can certainly discuss that with you. But I know there's a lot of work going on there. So certainly, please just stay engaged, everybody, and be engaged with Jerry, because I know everybody wants to, and we want to as well. So, Jerry, anything else you want to share before we end here?
This is a wonderful opportunity to share, and I thank you so much. Us to kind of let the community know what it is that we're attempting to do. Again, thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Yep. And just so everybody knows, the website is in the chat. I think your cell phone is in the chat too. So, Jerry, I'm just going to say this for you. Don't call after 8 o'clock at night. I don't know, but we really appreciate it. Really appreciate your sharing this.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that is all of our panelists. I really just want to thank everyone for their participation, their sharing their expertise, their knowledge, and their programs, and as well as everybody who has tuned in and asked questions and participated. It's been an awesome experience, and I know I've learned a lot, and look forward to continuing this work. So with that, I'm going to turn it over back to Wanda.
And Kyle and our esteemed panelists, thank you so very much. That was awesome. Awesome panel discussion. And just for the good of the order, we do want to make sure that no one has any questions that they would like to pose at this time before we do our presentation for the Fair Housing Breaking Barriers Award. Are there any questions at all? Because this is a great time to ask if you did not have the opportunity to ask before now. Okay. And I'm bad about checking chat and all of that, but I'm trying to do it while I'm talking to you all. I don't see any there. So seeing none, and Kyle, you did a phenomenal job. Kudos to you. Thank you. Thank you so much for keeping the conversation moving and for, you know, asking your own follow-up questions and sharing your perspectives as well. That is invaluable, especially in the position that you're in, because you have the unique advantage of being able to work with so many of us in various capacities. And I know that you're hitting the ground running because you're still relatively new to your position, but you have certainly proven to be quite the force already. And so we appreciate you for sharing your time and your expertise with us.
Wanda, thank you so much for asking. And I'm just gonna say, love working with you and all of the partners on here. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so moving on, we're going to go ahead and present to you all with great pleasure our Fair Housing Breaking Barriers Award presentation. And we do have with us Dr. Craig Richardson, and we also have Mr. Alvin Atkinson. And before we delve into what Dr. Richardson and Mr. Atkinson have to share with us, let's show you exactly why it is that the New Horizons Fair Housing Committee selected the Center for the Study of Economic Mobility from Winston-Salem State University as our awardees for this year. So can we go ahead and show the video? Thank you.
My name is Craig Richardson. I'm the director for the Center for the Study of Economic Mobility and professor of economics in Winston-Salem State. Our center is a research center. It's also a community center. We're trying to identify what are the reasons why folks aren't getting out of poverty here in this county. In fact, it's one of the hardest places in the entire country to get out of poverty. We were founded about 4.5 years ago to identify what are these broken rungs at the bottom of the economic ladder.
Really find out what is happening in Forsyth County that would make it rank so low in terms of if you're born poor in Forsyth County, generally some neighborhoods, you will never escape that label. Name Alvin Atkinson. I am the Community Engagement Lead and Associate Director for the Center for the Study of Economic Mobility at Winston-Salem State University. What we have attempted to do is to utilize knowledge that we've had in our community and to bring our WSSU faculty into the conversation so that we could understand those challenges and find out what else can be done that would help us really improve the outcomes for our community.
So what we're doing is identifying that as a problem, along with building more affordable housing. We want to look at the access to credit because people 100 years ago would be able to buy a fixer-upper home, put a lot of sweat equity into it and build wealth that way. And now we're really precluding that from a lot of folks. And as a result, they're lifelong renters.
We have some things that work, but we really have to put more resources into those things to allow them to really affect more individuals. One sure way of increasing your economic mobility is become a homeowner. And you will see that change. And that's what our research has lifted up and is showing. And that's why we keep knocking on doors saying, hey, listen, this is something that can work.
The message has reached as far as west of Seattle. CollegeNet, who's identified Winston-Salem State as one of the best schools in the country for upward social mobility in terms of our students, also decided to make a documentary called Rigged and How Wealthism is Affecting Higher Education, and decided to highlight Winston-Salem State and our center for the type of innovative things we're doing in the community. And so people across the country now, from New York to Seattle, are starting to see the impact of our center and our university.
The more we're able to speak to what we have in common, I think the more we'll be able to work and even make progress on these issues, because there's no silver bullet. Those things are there, but if we're in this together, I think we'll see that we're going to be all right. We're going to be a society, a city that others would aspire to be.
Thanks so much. For those of you who couldn't hear too well, I hope that at least the passion for our work comes through. And we're really excited to get this award. It's really a prestigious honor for us to get this recognition from the city for the Center for the Study of Economic Mobility at Winston-Salem State. I know somebody who mentioned that hopefully we can see a link to that video, because it does look like a great product the city put out. I do want to mention we have an amazing team at CSEM. Alvin Atkinson is our associate director, and he is the community lead. Zach Blizzard has done a lot of the data analysis, and he is our data analytics and research manager. John Rayleigh gets the word out by writing. You've probably come across a lot of his op-eds in the newspapers, and does a lot of amazing work in our department in marketing and writing, so that we can communicate out to the community. And Coretta Montague is our program manager. We're really excited to get this recognition, and we give a lot of credit to the county. Several years ago, Dan Cornelis approached us, and he had all this data information from the county, and Dan was the director there for the community and economic development. And we had about 800 notebooks that had never been studied for Forsyth County home ownership program. And though we had a lot of good stories that's been told today, Dan asked if we'd like to study that. And I said, sure, we will. We don't want to take any money because we want an objective analysis. And we found that Forsyth County has a real hidden gem here with Forsyth, with the homeowners program. We found that after 9 years, people who go through this program have $50,000 or more in home equity. They're moving to far safer neighborhoods. They have very low foreclosure rates and paying millions and millions of dollars in property taxes to the county. We think this is a hidden gem. There's a huge return on investment. And the challenge, I think, for us is how do we scale this program up? Each year, there are hundreds and hundreds of people who apply, and only a few dozen people are lucky enough to go through the program. And so what we're thinking about is how can we help our community scale this program up? I also want to mention that we have produced a film called Homestretch that was accepted at River Run Film Festival, and it is showing on Saturday at 2 o'clock along with 3 other films that center around economic mobility. It's at 2 o'clock at SECA, and there are, I think we'll have a great showing there. And we hope that it's a film about this program, and it's a film about the history of Winston-Salem, of redlining, of the destruction of the Black Business District, but it also is a film for which there's a lot of hope. And this county program really puts people on a different track and an upward track of economic mobility. I want to give a shout out to 2 amazing filmmakers, Diana Green, who directed the film Homestretch, and Tom Green, who is our editor, cinematographer, and overall just wonderful team that worked with us. So thank you again so much. We represent Winston-Salem State University. We're so proud that the city has recognized us.
And thank you, Dr. Richardson. It is indeed our absolute pleasure to recognize all of the wonderful work that you all have been doing. And Mr. Atkinson, did you want to chime in? And just for the record, we're going to re-show that video. We're going to try it one more time because that video was too good not to have everyone to hear it and understand it. So we're going to try it one more time. But in the meantime, Mr. Atkinson, would you like to share any thoughts?
Of course, that's why I'm on here. Even though my name is shown as Craig Richardson, but we're one and the same. Basically, sometimes I'm not a preacher, but near the end of the programs, they like for me to come on and say a few words, and so I know we're near the end. But the one thing I want to say is that we really do, as a community, appreciate the work that the city is doing through their human relations and diversity, equity, and inclusion, because that's really where the front line is for making change in our community. Human relations is about us recognizing that we're all of one race. And I just appreciate the fact that now our city is trying to do those things that can really result in change trajectories for our citizens. And we know through our research that if you become a homeowner, you basically have taken the #1 way of changing your economic status. And the more we're able to invest in these types of programs, the more we will be able to recognize that we can make the best of ourselves and for our neighbors. So I just wanted to close out with that and thank the city again for this recognition. And if you ever can get some more dollars to put into that homeowners program, please go ahead and find a way and make that happen, because it's definitely a success. Thank you.
Thank you both, gentlemen. And in the chat, people have asked what the name of the film is again, and it's called Home Stretch, according to Kyle. Kyle, thank you for sharing that. And Kyle shared that it's premiering on Saturday and I just lost what he said. Oh, as part of River Run, as a part of the River Run Film Festival at Sika at 2 p.m. And so thank you for sharing those details. And again, we are going to try again to share the video. If it still sounds muffled for the first few minutes, we'll just abandon ship and tell you that you can watch it on your own on demand. So Jamie, you want to try it again, please?
Craig Richardson. I'm the director for the Center for the Study of Economic Mobility and professor of economics at Winston-Salem State. Well, our center is a research center. It's also a community center. We're trying to identify what are the reasons why folks aren't getting out of poverty here in this county. In fact, it's one of the hardest places in the entire country to get out of poverty. We were founded about 4.5 years ago to identify what are these broken rungs at the bottom of the economic ladder.
We needed to find out what was happening in Forsyth County that would make it rank so low in terms of if you're born poor in Forsyth County. There are some neighborhoods that will never say that label. What we have attempted to do is to utilize knowledge that we've had in our community and to bring our information faculty into the conversation so that we could understand those challenges and find out what else can be done that will help us really improve the outcomes for our community.
So what we're doing is identifying that as a problem, along with building more affordable housing. We want to look at the access to credit, because people 100 years ago would be able to buy a fixer-upper home, put a lot of sweat equity into it, and build wealth that way. And now we're really precluding that from a lot of folks. And as a result, they're lifelong renters.
We have some things that work, but we really have to put more resources into those things to allow them to really affect more individuals. The one sure way of increasing your economic mobility is become a homeowner. And you will see that change. And that's what our research has looked it up and showing, and that's why we keep knocking on doors and saying, hey, this is something that can work.
The message has reached as far as west of Seattle. CollegeNet who's identified Winston-Salem State as one of the best schools in the country for upward social mobility in terms of our students. Also decided to make a documentary called Rig and How Welfarism is Affecting Higher Education, and decided to highlight Winston-Salem and our center for the type of innovation that we're doing. So people across the country now work through Seattle are starting to see our center in our university.
The more we're able to stick to what we have in common, I think the more we'll be able to work and even make progress on these issues, because there's no silver bullet. Those things are there, but if we're in this together, I think we'll see that we're going to be all right. We're going to be a society, assuming that others would aspire to be.
Okay, well, I think it started off well, and then it kind of got a little bumpy there, and then towards the end, it ended well. Very interesting, very odd. Our apologies. But again, yes, the video will be available to everyone so that you can see it separate and apart from what we just showed during this summit. But anyway, so again, congratulations to Dr. Richardson and his whole team. We're really honored to present the award to you this year. So on behalf of the New Horizons Fair Housing Committee, keep on doing what you're doing, and you're making a tangible difference in our community, and we appreciate you for that. So thank you. So everyone, we've made it. We promised to get you out of here by 2 o'clock. And we just want to make sure that we have afforded enough time for any questions that you may have. And I am not seeing any additional questions in the chat. But of course, if you do have questions or anything that you'd like to follow up on, please feel free to just let us know, and we can put you in touch with the panelists or anyone else on the call that you may need to connect with. All you have to do is reach out and we will make that happen for you. But again, on behalf of the New Horizons Fair Housing Committee, which is comprised of the Housing Authority of Winston-Salem, it's comprised of Financial Pathways of the Piedmont, also financial, I was getting ready to say Financial Pathways again, for Forsyth County Government, the City of Winston-Salem, the Human Relations Commission, Piedmont Federal, the Winston-Salem Regional Association of Realtors, so many of us. I just want to thank you all for joining us today. And we hope to be in person and live with you next year, given that we're thinking the numbers will be better and the pandemic won't be such a threat. But until that time, thanks so much and take care and have a wonderful remainder of your week. Thank you, everyone.